So Chris Copeland is the director of the Institute for Homeland Security, Cybercrime, and International Criminal Justice Studies at Tarleton State University. We want to welcome him to the show. Chris, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So talk to me a little bit about the indictments attached to the Yahoo hack today.
Well, first off, I want to congratulate you on an appropriate bumper song there. That was absolutely perfect.
Well, that's Dan. Dan does all the magic behind the wheels of steel.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely perfect. So what's going on is that the Justice Department has indicted 4 people. 2 are relatively well-known hackers already. Alexei Balan has been on the FBI's most wanted list for a few years now, and he's very notable in hacker circles, especially coming out of Eastern Europe. And it's not, unfortunately for me, it's not really that surprising that they've also indicted 2 FSB agents, or 2 people associated with the FSB. And for those who don't know, the FSB is the former KGB. When the Soviet Union fell and the Russian Federation picked up, the KGB kind of morphed into what is now the Federal Securities Bureau, which is the FSB. So I'm not really surprised at all by the indictments, but it's nice to know that they were able to trace it to these 4 people.
So these guys are out running around someplace, maybe very likely in Russia. Interpol's not going to be able to extradite them or pick them up or do anything. So what's the practical implication? I mean, what will they do? They'll freeze their assets. They'll deny the internet connectivity that they want. I mean, what are these guys going to do in terms of feeling it?
Well, in terms of feeling it, probably not a whole lot. You're right. It does set them up for possible extradition should they ever leave. Yeah. But I think Balan has he's been seen in Greece and Turkey a few times. They'll extradite on occasion, but Latvia and Russia won't. The remainder of it is, yes, once they can set up a criminal conspiracy, they can start freezing assets. Do you remember in the closing days of the Obama administration, so let's just kind of say the last 90 days, right, of the administration, so going November, December into January. Remember there were all these like veiled threats about cyber strikes hitting the Russians. Biden was talking tough. Obama was talking tough. We were going to hit them. They were going to get hit hard. We ended up shutting down a summer camp and expelling a few spies. But did we ever hit them? Did they ever, did we knock out the power in St. Petersburg or something? I mean, what did we ever do in terms of practically hitting the Russians and making them pay for their, their attempt to influence the election? So a lot of those were veiled threats. Yeah. And the reason that we make them is because we can do those things, but it can be considered an act of war. So that was just a bunch of tough talk, probably to just calm the Russians down and keep them in line. Do you think there's going to come a point at which the Russians decide to heat this up a little bit more? And, they have famously grabbed land in Ossetia and in Georgia. And, they've pulled a lot of moves, right? They took Crimea back. They've done a lot of stuff. Do you think they'll ever escalate to a point where they hit our grid or they make all of our traffic lights go red in a city to jam up traffic and create chaos? I mean, do you think this thing heats up? Not with the Russians. With the Chinese, maybe. With the Iranians, absolutely. Yeah. The largest 4 groups in the world of cyber warfare are, in order, the United States, China, Iran, and Russia. And Russia doesn't really have a group. They basically outsource it to former Soviet bloc hackers that are closely aligned with organized crime. Yeah, it's an amazing thing because at the end of the day, most of what the Russian hackers, such as they are, most of what they do is they're just trying to make money, right? Yeah, they're out there for the scam. And whatever the government pays them for, basically it's, we want this, and anything you get along the way is yours to do with as you please. What's your sense of the so-called Russian hack of the election? Where do you come down on, this battle that's gone back and forth between the 2 parties while they do nothing in the Congress? So, in terms of did they hack the election, it's doubtful that they hacked the actual election. Did they influence it by breaking into the RNC and the DNC servers? Absolutely. There's very little question, basically across the intelligence services and across independent contractors that show that Russia broke into both the Republican National Convention as well as the Democratic National Convention and stole information. Yeah. So, in terms of utilizing that, absolutely they did that. But I don't know that they went so far as to say they hacked the election.
It is so interesting to see how this stuff sort of plays out. Let me ask you this final question. A lot was made of the Vault 7 release last week from WikiLeaks, and we all know that the whole joke that people have been making about your TV spying on you and your blender and your microwave and all that sort of stuff. Is that the sort of stuff that keeps you awake at night when you sit there and you kind of at the end of the day you think about the different challenges in the field you're working? Are you worried about the ability to hack into our daily lives and create chaos?
No, I'm really not worried about that, primarily because the companies and services that we utilize, Google, Apple, Microsoft, do that already. I mean, they have an enormous amount of information on us already, so we're probably already done in terms of hacking our daily lives. But what does keep me up at night isn't the CIA stuff. Those are legitimate tools they're going to use, as long as they don't use them domestically, and that's what that's the law. As long as they use them on foreign soil, go for it. But at the same time, there has to be a balance between privacy and security, and I think the line's becoming grayer every day.
That's great stuff. Chris Copeland, Director of the Institute for Homeland Security, Cybercrime, and International Criminal Justice Studies at Tarleton State University. That's in Fort Worth, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, you got a website or a Twitter feed or anything you want to hit where people can get more information on what you're up to?
They can just go to tarleton.edu/criminology.
Terrific, man. I'd like to stay close with you here in these coming months. I think we're going to be having a lot to talk about, all right?
Absolutely, we will.
All right, take care, Chris. Appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot. That's Chris Copeland.